Hi everyone, I'm Rachel. I have hamsters, and today I'm going to be talking about my beautiful, sweet little Shirley. Shirley was one of my dwarf hamsters who passed away about 2 weeks ago on May 23rd, 2022. And in today's video, I'm just going to talk about what caring for her in the last 6 months was like, what kind of health problems she ran into, and how we figured out how to deal with them little by little, and also how caring for her at the very end was. I felt like it was a lot of learning on my part, not just about caring for a hamster, but also about kind of personally how to care for something that you know is eventually approaching the end, and being present with her. I think it was I grew a lot from this experience, and not just in learning about hamsters, but also learning about myself and how to be present in a moment that is difficult emotionally. I do think I improved a lot in that area, and I feel really happy with the time that I spent with her, and I hope that I did. I feel good about the care that I gave her, and I hope she feels the same way. Okay, so all that being said, of course, this video is going to discuss the loss of a hamster. So I'm going to try to not make it too much of a bummer, but I am going to discuss the health issues that she had and how I dealt with them little by little. If that's not something you're super excited about watching, I totally understand. If you fast forward this video about halfway, you'll get to the part where it's just a montage of beautiful videos of Shirley set to music, and you can watch that. Or maybe I'll link to a super fun video up above in the corner, just so you have somewhere to go if you're just not ready to watch this. I totally understand. We all have different things going on in our lives, and sometimes we're not really emotionally ready to watch a video about an animal that has passed away. So totally get it. So if you haven't been following my journey for the last year and a half, I'm Rachel, and I have hamsters. And the way it all started was in the middle of COVID, and feeling kind of lonely and wanting some companionship, but not having a large apartment or a backyard, and having a busy job. And I decided to volunteer and take in some foster hamsters. And I got Laverne and Shirley as a result. And I didn't know what to expect from them. I got them in November of 2020. And, at first they were just my fosters. So I figured, I'll have them for a few months and we'll see how this goes. And then I just fell in love with them. They're both just such big personalities, so different, and such lovely creatures to have around. I feel like they really brought something to my life in the last year and a half, and I'm really grateful for the time I had with them. So all that being said, about a year ago, after I had them so I got them in November 2020, and starting maybe about the same time 2021, Shirley started having some trouble with eating. We didn't know what was going on with her, but she was losing a ton of weight. And eventually, after a few vet visits, we figured out that she had lost her top incisors, so her top front teeth. She still had bottom teeth. You can see them in this video. They're actually a little bit long. And her bottom teeth I had to bring to the vet every 4 weeks about to get them trimmed, because she did not have top teeth to keep them trimmed. And she also still had molars. So she was able to chew food, but I had to kind of it still had to be soft so it could get in her mouth, more or less. So once I found this out about her, I started making her hamster mush. And there are some recipes out there that it's like a complete diet for hamsters, specifically for hamsters who don't have teeth or have missing some teeth. And it's supposed to be a complete diet. So it's Missouri lab blocks and chia seeds and oatmeal and a bunch of things all mixed together, and it's like a wet food. I probably first learned about it from Munchie, and then I looked up the recipe online, and I will link to both below. But I tried this with Shirley, and Shirley, not into it. I tried it blueberry flavored and banana flavored and green bean flavored. I could not get her to eat this stuff. Sometimes she would eat it if I held it up to her mouth, but even at that, she lost a ton of weight. Basically, she got down to be about 30 grams. And that was half of her weight. That she used to be more like 55, 60 grams. She was kind of a big girl. So she lost about half of her body weight. And by the end of 2021, I sort of started to wonder if this was it. Like, I thought, well, I've had her for a year now. Who knows how old she was when she came to me? Maybe this is just the end. Like, maybe she's not eating because she's just old, and I don't know. I mean, I brought her to the vet a million times. Like, I could not figure out how to get her to eat. And finally one day, my boyfriend was he decided to chop up one of the pellets that's inside the the Sunburst seed mix. The Sunburst seed mix is mostly seeds, but it does have some pellets in there. And so he chopped one up with a knife into like tiny, tiny little bits, like it was basically dust. And he decided to give it to her. And it worked. She ate it. She loved it. And it was like a light bulb went off. Oh my gosh. Okay. So then I just started chopping up whatever I could. And later I figured out that I could use the Cuisinart for this. But, I bought some shelled sunflower seeds, of course, unsalted, all sorts of different types of nuts, cashews, pecans, almonds, peanuts, whatever I could think of. Flaxseed, I got some ground flaxseed. I finally chopped up a baby puff. Missouri lab blocks, we also ground those up. And that was way more successful. For whatever reason, Shirley was not super excited about the wet food, or she would eat it, you can see her, but she just wouldn't eat it all, and she wouldn't eat enough that it sustained her. She was losing a lot of fur on the bottom half of her body, and you can see it in this video how bare she is when she turns. She's got kind of like bare rear end. Poor girl. But you can see here she's eating a chopped up some sort of pellet or something that we gave her, and she happily devours it all. And this was really a big turning point. So this was about January 2022 that we figured this out, and that sort of reinvigorated her. By the time we got to about March of 2022, most of her fur had regrown. She was starting to get more fur throughout the rest of her body as well. Like, her coat just generally looked so much more healthy, and she had this tiny little belly. She just was looking good. I started to think, hey, I think we've gotten over this, and I know that she's getting old. She's probably getting close to 2 years old, but everything looks good. And so I kind of just was like, we're good, we're cruising. And I, let her explore her 200 quart bin cage. I took her out as much as she wanted, and we lived this beautiful, happy life for about a month. Okay, so before I go any farther with this, I do just want to make a little disclaimer. I am not a vet, nor am I a hamster expert. I just have these 5 hamsters, and I'm sharing my journey with all of you on how it was to care for them. But, if your hamster doesn't have teeth, I don't know if chopping up dry food is going to work for them. It worked for Shirley. I'm really glad that it worked for Shirley, but I'm not advocating this as a solution. I probably would try first what is recommended, the wet food diet, which has been tested and developed by a breeder and is a complete diet. That's probably your best option if you have a hamster who doesn't have teeth or has a dental issue. But past that, sometimes with anything in our lives, our pets, our health, sometimes we have to kind of like be creative and figure out a solution that works. And that was what I had to do here. So I'm not trying to say this is the right way. It's just the way that I dealt with it. So one of the things that was really successful with grinding up the food is that it allowed me to kind of sprinkle it throughout a playpen or sprinkle it throughout her enclosure, and it allowed her to continue her foraging behaviors and encourage her to eat. So I think one of the problems I ran into with the wet food is it was sort of lacking in the enrichment part, the part that was stimulating to her, and maybe that was why she wasn't as motivated to eat that food. But I found giving it to her in this way, in foraging areas or on top of drink containers, you'll see that in a bit, that was really successful in getting her to constantly want to hunt for food and eat, and kind of brought her as close as I could bring her to her normal life before she had the dental issue. All right, so this wise cam footage here, this is April 1st at 6 in the morning, and this is the last time I saw Shirley before she fell ill. And it actually seems, based on this video, that she already is ill in this video. I obviously wasn't awake at 6 a.m., so I didn't really see her in person. I didn't watch this video until later. I just saw that, oh, she was up, she ate her food, I noticed she ate, so I didn't really think anything of it. Up until this point, she looked good, her eyes were bright and clear, she was active, I was seeing her every day, and it didn't really occur to me, sometimes you go a day and you don't see them for whatever reason, like, they just come out when you're not there. So I didn't really think about it, but in the next day, on April 2nd, I got up. I always check my alerts to see how my hamsters are doing and who's awake or who was awake. And I looked and I saw I had no alerts from Shirley. And I thought, that's weird. Is her camera broken? And I scrolled back and I saw that the last alert I had was this one from over 24 hours previously. So I thought, oh no. I was actually on the phone with a friend at the time and I was like, I gotta go. And I threw down the phone and I went downstairs to try to find her. I think at the time I probably was not expecting good news, for sure. I was surprised to see her alive. But I think had I not found her when I did, I don't know how much longer I would have had. I think that that I really got her at the right moment, and I'm so grateful for my wise cams. If you have a hamster, you should definitely have a wise cam. On a lot of my cages, I actually have two because I'm that crazy. But I mean, I think if you have it where they have water, that's usually good enough because you'll see if they're drinking water, and they will drink water at least a few times a day. So if they're not drinking water, then you know something is wrong. But it's nice to have a few. You can see what they're up to. You can see how they're doing. So you can see in this video that she does not look healthy. She looks kind of bloated and weird. I think had I watched this video, I would have known that she was sick, but I don't always watch every wise cam video. It's a lot of videos. I have 5 hamsters. I try to give them all attention, but sometimes it is tough. So I happened to miss this one, but I'm very glad that I noticed it and took action when I did. Okay, so here's me in the morning on April 2nd. It looks like it's 8:30 in the morning. I am delicately trying to find where it is that Shirley is. She usually was nesting kind of in the middle of the bin, or at least that's what I thought. So I basically had to take the whole bin apart to try to find where she was. I knew that she was the type of hamster that likes to really dig down deep because every time I have to take her to the vet, it's like, oh, I have to totally dismantle her whole living situation just to figure out where she is. And it's hard sometimes to be on time because of that. Oh gosh. But yes, I did eventually find her. Okay, I sped up this footage for your sake, but don't worry, I wasn't moving that fast. I was actually moving super slow, which is why I had to speed it up. It was really boring to watch. And I finally found her underneath her little peep shed. There she is. I couldn't believe it. She was alive, but very sleepy. And unless the difficult thing, with any hamster is they hoard. So sometimes it's hard to know if they've been eating or not. But I did bring her food, and she ate it pretty greedily. So it made me think that whatever this illness was, she didn't have the energy to go eat. And so she was just sort of laying there, kind of like not helping herself at all. Okay, so I went to grab some scrambled eggs because I knew that that was something that she would eat. And when I came back and gave her the scrambled eggs, which you'll see in a minute, she would eat a bite of it. She was pretty excited, but then she'd start to fall asleep again. And that was pretty weird to me. At this point, I wasn't really sure if she was sick or if she just hadn't eaten, and maybe she was just like getting old, and maybe the 200 quart bin cage was too much for her. That was totally an option. Like, I thought, well, maybe she just couldn't get up the bridge. She seemed fine. I tried looking at her. I could not tell that anything was obviously wrong, other than that she seemingly hadn't gotten water or eaten for that day. But when I gave her food, she ate it, so that was a good sign. So I wasn't really sure what to do. I thought maybe she just needed a smaller bin. Maybe I was like, okay, maybe it's time. She's getting to be elderly. Time to change bin setups here. Okay, so here's the new bin that I set up for her. It's 100 quarts, or 110 about. I made it pretty flat so that she could definitely access her food and her water without issue. I gave her some bedding, but you can see I took the legs off of her platform there, and that way she could easily climb onto it, and I made sure that she ate. I did, of course, also bring her to the vet. So that was Saturday when I found her, and I was able to get an appointment with the emergency vet on Saturday night. So I did have to wait kind of a while, but I at least got her in on the same day. And it was not the best news when I brought her in, unfortunately. So the emergency vet whisked her away when I got there, and they evaluated her, and they told me her oxygen levels were really low. So they immediately put her in an oxygen chamber to kind of get her feeling a little better. And they said her breathing was labored, which was something that I had noticed. It was a little hard to tell, but if I got her really close to my ear, I could hear tiny clicks when she breathed. I wasn't really able to capture that on camera. It was so small, but it was something that I could just barely tell. Her behavior was also, she was extremely lethargic for the whole day until I got to the doctor. I thought that maybe once she ate, she would start to, perk up a little bit, but she really didn't. Other than the bare minimums of eating and drinking water, she really stayed asleep, which was unusual for her, especially once I greeted her. She usually wanted to come out and spend time with me, so I knew she wasn't being her normal self. They also pointed out that she had diarrhea when she got there. I don't know if this was related to whatever was going on. I suspect that maybe she just hadn't eaten well for the day before until I found her, and maybe she got an upset stomach from that. That's my best guess. I really don't know what caused that, but that was what was going on. So the vet suggested that we do an x-ray of her lungs to see what was going on, and I said, sure, yeah, let's do it. Basically, they told me it could be cancer, it could be heart failure, or it could be pneumonia. So this was like, please be pneumonia. So they did the x-ray, and the x-ray was kind of inconclusive. The vet couldn't really see any pneumonia in her lungs, but also she's so tiny. They were like, it was really hard to photograph her, so maybe this just isn't representative. We don't really know. So they sent me home with a prescription for Baytril, which is an antibiotic, and they also sent me home with some Medicam, which is a painkiller, an anti-inflammatory painkiller. So they also told me, basically we didn't know if it was pneumonia or something else, but they said keep her warm. Her breathing is labored, so bring her bin into the bathroom with you when you take a shower so she gets that steam. Try to make sure that her temperature is controlled, keep her away from any drafts, make sure she has easy access to water and food, and just monitor her carefully. And they kind of gave me that sad face, like like she's probably not going to make it. It was really rough. So I had this bin set up when I got her home. I also happened to have these little Bluetooth thermometers, and they measure the humidity in the room. So I clipped one of those on her bin. I will link down below to that in case you're interested. I also have a Wi-Fi version, so if I'm away from the home, it'll tell me what the temperature is where my hamster's bin is, and so I can monitor if let's say the AC goes out, or maybe it's winter and it's really cold. Just nice to have it kind of on your mind if you want to check in on them. And this allowed me to sort of monitor the dryness in the air. It was still kind of winter. I'm in the Midwest right now, so winter goes on until May. So I definitely had to pull out the humidifier. I got a hot steam humidifier, and I monitored that the humidity stayed between about 40 and 60%, which is what I read was healthy. I'm not sure. I don't know that we have a ton of data on hamster humidity health, but I did that based on what the doctors told me, and it actually did seem to help, surprisingly enough, which I will get into in a minute. So if you're watching that video, you'll notice that I uncovered her and hand-fed her some scrambled eggs. Those eggs had the Baytril on them and the Medicam for at least the first couple days, and I think really the first week. I mostly had to come to her and make sure that she was eating and drinking. She did occasionally come out and use the sand bath or wander around, but for the most part, I had to be on top of making sure she was eating. So I was all on that. I would put food out for her, and I just started waking up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and I would check and see if she didn't eat the food, then I would bring the food to her, which is why you'll probably notice that I'm wearing pajamas in most of these videos because it's usually the middle of the night, and I moved her bin to be pretty close to my bed so I could just kind of like roll over and look at her. And I also had kind of like mom ears going, so if she made sounds or was squeaking, I was right there awake and able to help her. So this became just like my obsession, is trying to get her what she needed and hoping for the best. And if nothing else, I wanted to make sure that she got the Medicam, the pain relief, because I didn't know what was wrong with her, and I just wanted her to be comfortable and feel comforted and feel like I was taking care of her and that she, wasn't alone going through this. So I then kind of became obsessed with figuring out what possibly could have happened to her. She did start to improve, which made me think, oh, it was pneumonia. And then I started to think, well, how did she get pneumonia? And that's when I started to remember that I once had this flour mix that I got earlier in the year that she was sneezing with. So of course, after the sneezing incident, I removed that bin of foraging material from her enclosure, and I also just removed that particular mix of flowers from any of the playpens to make sure she didn't interact with it. I don't know, I figured it was just one particular ingredient in that flour mix because I had used flour mixes with all my hamsters and had never had an issue, and they all really loved them. I mean, here she is just going at it in a bin of flowers. So I didn't want to take away flowers completely, but after this incident, and it seems like maybe she had a pneumonia, so I decided to just replace all the coconut fiber in the playpens and all of their bins, and no more hamster flowers for anybody. Unfortunately, I just wanted to be super safe about it and make sure that that wasn't the culprit of why she got so sick. And just to explain my logic there a little further, if she had been allergic to the flowers and they caused constant irritation to her lungs, it could have caused some inflammation, which eventually could have led to a pneumonia. So there was some logic there, although it was sort of like a total guess because I really don't know. Who knows why anybody gets sick? We all get weird ailments sometimes, and there's not always reason. But she did start to show signs of improvement. I had to be really diligent about making sure she was getting her medicine every day and drinking and eating every day. But after the initial week, where it was very hands-on, she did start to look like she had a little more energy. She was still pretty bloated, but that was possibly also because of the antibiotics. She definitely struggled with GI issues from the antibiotics, and I struggled getting her to eat the probiotics. She just was like, not interested. I tried giving her yogurt. I tried putting it on an egg, and she just like wouldn't eat the egg. It was really difficult. So I was very excited to get her off those antibiotics once we finished the course. But here she is drinking on her own. You can tell she just looks a little ragged, but she's out and about, which is something, for the first week she really was not out and about much. So I felt like we were making progress, and I was, I think for the first couple days after going to the emergency vet, I was like, this is my last 48 hours with her. I was devastated. I was like crying every time I looked at her. And then, after a couple of days, I was like, maybe she's gonna be okay, maybe. And this was about the time that I had to start to kind of rethink the way I saw Shirley and my mindset around it. Of course, I desperately wanted her to be better, and I wanted her to be well, but I also had to face the reality that like maybe she wasn't going to get well, and maybe this was it. And the challenge I had was I was so torn up about it. I felt like I couldn't even look at her. I almost like dreaded, even though I would check on her several times a day and make sure she ate and drank, I sort of dreaded those moments. And P.S., in retrospect, this was a terrible bowl choice for her, so I did not use that bowl anymore. She really struggled getting in there. But I really almost dreaded checking on her because I worried that she was going to be sicker or that she was not going to be alive, or just that it was going to be too painful to look at her. And I would just cry all the time. And, and I felt bad because I wanted to be, I wanted to be helpful to her. I wanted to be a positive, a positive place of comfort for her. And I felt like I couldn't do that because I just was so broken up about it all. And I started to try to rethink everything and try to think about things of less as like, winning or losing this battle with this particular illness, and more just like trying to, take a breath and just be present with her, that, I might not be able to save her, and that just might be the reality. Like I want to save her. I want her to live longer. I want her to be happy and healthy and comfortable, but it might not be possible. And I had to kind of like let go of that feeling of like needing to have that in order to just sort of like take her as she was. I'm doing everything that I can. She was getting veterinary care. I had a follow-up appointment with my regular vet for her. There was nothing more I could do for her other than give her love and attention. And so that's what I did. And I think that was a really important step for me to get through, is just to like be super there. And that really helped me get through the next couple months with her, or a couple weeks, months, because it helped me just sort of see her as this, beautiful little creature that I got to interact with. And maybe the time is fleeting, and it sucks, but it's also kind of like all the more special because we just have these little moments. Even though I only had her for a year and a half, it feels like eternity, because I lived so much of her life with her, and I spent so much time with her. I don't feel like the time was short, because for me it was like very present and very meaningful. So now we're at the beginning of May, and if you remember the initial sickness started around the beginning of April. So we're 1 month after that, and she was like better than ever. You can see her running on her wheel now. She had energy. She was like busy. She was in the playpen a ton. I felt like I was giving her so much attention because she was just awake, and she would just leap into my hands. It was so sweet. I felt like our bond was so strong because of what we had been through together and how hard I had cared for her, how devoted I was to caring for her. And I think that she felt that. I feel like we were really close. And I was, after watching this video of her running on her wheel, which I really didn't expect her to ever really do very much anymore, I thought, okay, well, I guess it's time to move her back into her really big bin cage. I figured, all right, I guess she had pneumonia and we're better now, and she's gonna be around for a while. Okay, so the next two videos you're gonna see are about 2 weeks later from this. The first one, it was maybe midweek, and she was out foraging, and I heard her make some like squeaky nose sounds. It sounded kind of like she had a stuffy nose, and I recorded it with my phone so I could show my vet, and then I picked her up and I brought her to the humidifier, tried to get her cleared out. That's what the vet had recommended that I do. And then by Friday morning, the noise was much worse, and I have another video of that, which you will see next. And from there, I did immediately bring her to the emergency vet, and then I made an appointment with my regular vet as well to try to address whatever was going on. So from here, it went pretty fast. I immediately got her vet care. She was back on antibiotics. She was back on pain relief. She was back to her medical situation next to my bed with the humidifier running and me monitoring her at all hours, in the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, all the time. And I wanted to give her a fighting chance. I could see that she's struggling. You can tell she's having trouble breathing in this video. But, last time she looked really bad and she got better. So this time I was thinking, well, I was going back and forth. Like, I don't want her to suffer, but I also wanted to give her a chance to get better because maybe she will. And I started to, after this video, I started to think maybe I needed to, have her put to sleep because I was worried that she was suffering. But I think I took this video about the day before she died. So it was really fast. And I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision, although, I feel bad for any suffering that she did have. So I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, technically Tuesday at 3 a.m., as I often did, to check on Shirley. And this time I noticed she hadn't eaten any of her food. And of course I went to check on her and she was no longer with us. And now it's 3 a.m. And I think the hardest part was like, what do I do now? I couldn't stop staring at the little hole she had left that was, just the perfect shape of her little bod. So I went right to work. I didn't go back to bed. I looked for a little box to put her in, and I got some flour mix to put her in. And don't worry, I won't show you anything more than that, but I did feel like it was important for me to kind of make sure that she was honored in that way. Okay. We're through the tough part. Now it's just cute videos of Shirley. So don't worry. You can just watch cute videos of Shirley for like the next half hour. Yeah, there's that many videos. I do have a couple things to chat about though, if you want to continue on with me. Right now I haven't figured out what to do with Shirley yet. So she's still in a little box in my freezer. I know that's a little weird, but I just, I want to be intentional about it. It's only been 2 weeks. It's been really busy. I started kind of a new job and I've just been like working like crazy, and I want to be thoughtful about what's next. I mean, I'll be honest, like I've barely cleaned out her bin. So I'm like still working my way through that. It just feels like such a process to kind of get to what's next. But I would love to hear from you guys. I'm curious what you guys have done with your pets once they pass. I do see that some people like plant plants and have their hamster at the bottom of it, which I think is pretty cool. I was thinking about maybe doing something along those lines. So I'm still pondering, but we'll get there. And I think, past that, it's been such an interesting, I think this is a lot of the personal growth too that I experienced. This is the first pet that's been solely mine that has passed away. And of course, the first of my 5 hamsters to pass away. So I would say Shirley is probably the hamster. I think I really love all my hamsters, and I wouldn't say that I have a favorite, but I do think I was more connected to Shirley. Shirley, I think it's the way that I would put out my hand and she put one little paw on it and look up at me. I didn't have another hamster that I quite had that sort of trust bond with. Sometimes Steven lets me pet him for a while. Boy, I know it's going to be tough when Steven goes too. Man, but I do think that Shirley is particularly tough for me. And so I'm just trying to like let myself get there in time. But it's been super hard. It's been super a lot of things. Like it's such an interesting thing to go through, because I think once I got over the initial like heartache of it, maybe the first 24 hours, I felt a sense of relief, because for the last like 2 months, basically, I've been stressing about how she's doing and stressing about if she's comfortable, if she's happy, if she's healthy. And especially those last couple of days, she really wasn't quite herself. I mean, I think maybe on Friday, I remember she leaped into my hand and we had kind of a moment, and I was trying to like listen to her and her sounds. But then, throughout the weekend, she just was no longer herself, and I couldn't get her to, she didn't want to interact with me at all. And that was really a bummer. And I knew that she didn't feel well. Yeah, so I don't want to, it's tough when you go through that, because it's kind of like your last memory of them, right? Is that sort of like the weird at the end, and you're worried about them. And so I think there was this sort of sense of relief. I don't think I realized the amount of stress that I was carrying with me, of worrying about her and constantly, obviously I would wake up in the middle of the night consistently for like a while to check on her. And I don't think you sort of realize the kind of stress that you're taking on until it's no longer there, until suddenly you're like, oh, I don't have to feel this weight anymore, that's gone. And I also think I have a lot of peace of mind knowing that, maybe the last couple days were hard for her, but I think on the whole, she lived a mostly happy and healthy life. I did as much as I could possibly do for her. I'm sure there's things that maybe could have been done and maybe I didn't know, or my vets didn't know, but on the whole, I think she lived a pretty good life, and she lived fairly long for a dwarf hamster, so I feel good about that, and I don't have any regrets, and I feel like I spent a lot of time with her, so I feel good about that as well. So yeah, it's like a weird mix of feelings. I will also say mixed within the weird mix of feelings is this like fear about the next hamster that's gonna pass. And it's funny, when I got, I had Steven first, and then I got Sophia, and then I got Laverne and Shirley. And I didn't really think about the fact that they were all kind of about the same age. So everybody's coming up on 2 years old. And then part of it didn't really occur to me. I suppose I also assumed that not all of them would make it this far. I think I'm very lucky in the fact that I have now 3 hamsters who are almost 2 years old. I think that's pretty unusual, especially for hamsters who are rescue pet store hamsters. Like maybe if you got an ethically bred hamster who, is being bred to be healthy. These are not hamsters who by any means any thought went into their breeding. So I feel like I kind of didn't anticipate getting to this point where they're all still alive. I thought that maybe, you see on Instagram or so, it's like one day you go to check on them and they're gone. I have not experienced that with any of my hamsters. It's like they are troopers, which is great. I'm so happy that they're here, but I also think I have this like, this pit knowing that's coming up, and what a year this is going to be for me. On the flip side of that, I do think that like the beautiful thing about having hamsters is like sad and beautiful, but you get to experience the whole breadth of their life in this short period of time. So even though I only had Shirley for 1.5 years, it feels so much longer because I got her when she was young. She wasn't a baby, but she was definitely young, and I got to like grow up with her basically. And I feel like, so for that reason, it's like time is kind of relative, right? Like it wasn't very long, but it also kind of was very long. And then at the same time, I'm like benefiting from the fact that I get to live a long time, hopefully. So it means that I get to take in another hamster who maybe is red listed at an LA shelter, or, help out a local small animal rescue by taking in a hamster. So the fact that they don't live very long at least gives me the opportunity to help out more, which is nice. And even though I'm not ready to take in any more hamsters right now, I think for 2022, I'm going to try to, I don't know, well, we'll see. But I think I'm going to try to just keep on with the hamsters that I have, and hopefully no more acquirings, but I don't know. I can't make any promises. But certainly not right now. I'm not ready. I will say, this is funny. I met this woman last summer in 2021. Last summer after I got vaccinated, I flew home to see my family for the first time in like 1.5 years. And it was during that beautiful time when, like, you know, everyone just got vaccinated, but it was before Delta, so it was just like, woo, COVID's over, everything's going back to normal. And I went to a friend's house and we watched Black Widow, the Scarlett Johansson movie, and this girl was there who said, oh yeah, I used to have hamsters too. And so I started chatting with her, and finally I was like, oh, why did you stop having hamsters? And she said, because it's so sad when they die. And then I was like, oh no. Like, it just like hadn't occurred to me that was gonna happen. You know, I knew that it was gonna happen, but I just kind of didn't anticipate that it would be this hard. So I don't think this is going to deter me. I do see some people get deterred by the short lifespan. I don't think it's going to deter me. I feel like even though I'm super sad about Shirley, and, you know, like, I feel like sometimes I'll think about something, or, you know, it's now about 2.5 weeks after she passed away. You know, I still am crying about her, but I feel like it's not like the kind of crying that's like just that really deep, sad cry. It's more of like I don't know, like a bittersweet cry, like maybe a happy, sad cry. I feel like the cry is because it did have a great experience. And so I think it only reinforces the fact that I really enjoyed having her as a hamster, and I feel like I'm in it now. Like, I'm trying to imagine my life without a hamster, and I don't know. I'm pretty into hamsters now. They're just such lovely little creatures, and I feel like it's like the perfect pet for me. They are just like, I don't know, they fit so perfectly into my life, and I love designing hamster bins and cages for them, and I love thinking of creative ways to entertain them, and I love taking pictures of them, and I love the hamster community, and I don't imagine myself moving away from that, you know, at least not anytime soon. So you know, we'll get through this year. I'll see how the year goes, but I feel like I'm in it now for the long run. I didn't know if I was going to be in it, I have to be honest. You know, when I started this channel and when I first got hamsters, I just thought, all right, well, I'm going to take in these hamsters. It's COVID. I'm going to give them a good life, and I'm going to document this journey. And, you know, then that might be it. Like, I really didn't go into it thinking this is a life change that I'm making for the rest of my life. I just went into it thinking, I need some companionship. It's COVID and I'm really lonely. And I can't have like a big pet because, you know, I don't live in a house with a yard, and I have a landlord, and I have a tight budget, and I can't afford, you know, a cat that's going to destroy the floors or the walls and have me pay for it. So hamsters just like felt like it worked, but I really didn't know that it would click on this deeper level. So I'm really glad that it did. I think this has been a really lovely journey, and maybe just the beginning of my journey. We'll see. But thank you for sticking around for me for this whole video. If you've made it this far, thank you. I know it was kind of a bummer of a video, and it took me a while to get through it. But, and I know I've been MIA because of all my hamsters, you know, well, now you know why. I've been very busy taking care of all of my beautiful little hamsters and trying to be there with them in their, you know, their important moments. And I promise I will, you know, I have lots of videos in the works. It's kind of like the editing part that gets hard. But I will continue to update you guys on all my other hamsters and all the other things that I've been working on. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Just, you know, just making sure that my hamsters get what they need in the time that, you know, they're more needy right now than maybe they were in the past. Thank you for watching as always, and I'm gonna have lots of footage of Shirley here if you want to stick around and watch it. And if you have any comments or thoughts or questions, of course I'm always open to to responding to them. So just leave me a comment below. You can also send me a message on Instagram. I will leave a link to my Instagram feed down below. And of course, I have my website and I have an email. It's just rachelgothamsters@gmail.com. So you can always send me an email there. I'd always love to hear from you guys. And that's really like the hamster thing. It's like 50% hamsters, and then it's 50% the people around hamsters. It's just such a lovely thing to be a part of. And I really appreciate all of you and all of you who've been here on this journey with me and watched Shirley throughout this whole journey. Thank you. Thank you for being there. And thank you for all your messages so far. It's been really, really lovely.